Okay, so just imagine this for a second. What if you woke up one day and pretty much everyone you knew just stopped questioning things? What if the world just got so loud and so fast that our own minds, this amazing tool we have for curiosity and growth, just kind of went into screensaver mode, passively accepting whatever comes along?
Yeah, that leads us to the big one, doesn't it? What actually happens when our ability to reason, to challenge, to just sit and reflect gets replaced by knee-jerk reactions and these massive echo chambers? That is the absolute core of what we're digging into here.
So, to even begin to answer a question that big, you have to start by diagnosing the problem. And it all begins with this phenomenon that some thinkers have called collective stupidity.
Now, let's be super clear about this. This isn't about intelligence or IQ points. It's not about people being dumb. It's about a mass surrender of our own intellectual independence. It's this slow, quiet process that happens without us even noticing it.
And you know what? This isn't some random accident. Our entire environment, from social media algorithms to the whole culture of outrage, is actively designed to condition us away from deep critical thought. Why? Because it's just inconvenient for the system.
So what's with this number? 5 times. Well, according to neuroscientist Daniel Levitin, that's how much more information we are processing every single day compared to just a couple of decades ago. Our brains literally cannot keep up. So what do? They take shortcuts. They start relying on biases and what the group thinks instead of doing the hard, messy work of actual analysis.
Man, Carl Sagan absolutely nailed the danger here. We rely on these unbelievably complex systems for everything in our lives, but at the same time, our ability to think critically about them is just fading away. And that creates this huge and frankly dangerous gap between what we depend on and what we understand.
But here's the kicker. This erosion of our thinking, it's not just a passive thing that's happening. No, it's being actively encouraged by powerful systems that are basically designed to train us not to think for ourselves.
Whoa, okay, that's a pretty intense quote, I know. But the educator John Taylor Gatto was arguing that our modern education system was literally designed back in the industrial age to produce obedient workers, people who follow instructions, not curious, independent thinkers. Conforming gets you an A, but asking the deep, difficult questions, that's often seen as just being a distraction.
And this idea goes way beyond the classroom. The philosopher Noam Chomsky talked about this concept of manufacturing consent. See, if a population is trained to just absorb information without ever questioning it, they become way easier to manage. Their consent is basically manufactured for them.
And get this kind of conditioning is literally rewiring our brains. Think about it. Deep reading, like getting lost in a book, builds up our attention span and our ability to analyze. But the way we consume information now, digital skimming, it does the exact opposite. It fractures our focus and trains us for shallow, instant reactions instead of any real, nuanced understanding.
And social media? Well, it's basically pouring gasoline on this fire. These platforms are engineered for engagement, and that means their whole design is meant to bypass our critical thinking. Outrage gets way more clicks than reason. Division keeps us glued to the screen more than understanding. A quick reaction is always valued more than slow, careful reflection.
All right, so we've got these massive external forces pushing on us, but the fight doesn't stop there. A huge part of the battle is happening right inside our own heads. We all have to deal with these psychological traps and cognitive biases that are just hardwired into us as humans.
The psychologist Daniel Kahneman broke this down beautifully. He said we basically have 2 operating systems in our brain. System 1 is fast, it's your gut reaction, your snap judgment. System 2 is slow, it's deliberate, logical, and takes real effort. And our modern world keeps us constantly running on that fast, error-prone System 1.
Oh man, this one gets all of us. Confirmation bias. We are naturally programmed to look for information that proves we're already right. Just ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you actively went looking for solid evidence that you were wrong about something important to you? It feels terrible, but it is absolutely essential for clear thinking.
And then you've got groupthink. This is that feeling you get in a meeting when you know an idea is terrible, but everyone else is nodding along, so you just stay quiet. It happens because for most of us, the fear of being kicked out of the tribe is way stronger than the desire to be right.
And that's why, when you look at history, all real progress has come from people who dare to think differently. Figures like Galileo or Martin Luther King. They were mocked, they were punished for challenging the consensus. But their willingness to doubt, to think for themselves, is what shaped our world.
So, if real thinking is an act of rebellion, then how do we sign up? How do we actually do it? Well, that brings us to the most important part of all this.
how we can reclaim the courage to think for ourselves.
We've got to be honest here. The real reason most of us avoid true critical thinking isn't because it's too hard. It's because we're afraid. We're terrified of what we might find out, what it might cost us, our identity, our beliefs, our place in our community. We're afraid of losing that feeling of safety.
So what's the game plan? Well, first, you have to cultivate awareness. That means practicing metacognition, literally thinking about how you think. Next, you have to practice dialectic, the mental workout of holding two opposing ideas in your head at the same time to find a deeper truth. That means you have to read deeply, not just headlines, and you have to listen actively, not to find ammo for a comeback, but to truly, genuinely understand.
You know, this all comes back to Socrates. When he said this, he wasn't telling people to be ignorant. He was championing intellectual humility. Because the real starting point for any true wisdom is admitting that you don't have all the answers.
Ultimately, what it all boils down to is this choice. You can either be a passive product of your environment, or you can decide to become the active architect of your own mind. Critical thinking really is the ultimate act of personal freedom.
In a world that literally profits from our distraction, from our conformity, the most radical, the most revolutionary thing you can possibly do is just to think. So the only real question left is, will you?